Hi students, in the previous module we have checked when Pt and P infinite are given by pressure change method how to calculate the rate constant of first order reaction. Now in that case itself we will take another condition like case 3, that is when P infinite and Pt are given, then how to calculate K1. We'll check that now. To do that, in the previous condition, you know that P infinite is equal to Y P naught, which implies P naught must be equal to P infinite by Y. So, when you take that P naught is equal to P infinite by Y. So, you can check here that in this case P infinite equal to Y P naught, what we got P naught equal to P infinite by Y. In the previous condition, what we got K1 is equal to 2.303 by T log of, do you remember the equation what we have got there in that condition? P naught into Y minus 1 by, we have got here P naught Y minus Pt. This is the K1 rate constant when P naught and Pt are given in the second case what we have discussed in module 4. Now let us check here K1 equal to 2.303 by T log of P naught into Y minus 1 by P naught Y minus Pt. Of course, here P naught is not given. Instead of P naught, what is given to us? P infinite. Then what is P naught to be substituted as P infinite by Y, which implies K1 must be equal to 2.303 by T log of, instead of P naught, we can keep P infinite by Y into Y minus 1 divided by P infinite by Y into Y minus Pt. Now, from this, what is the K1 we will get here? Which implies K1 must be equal to 2.303 by T log of. Here, you can observe that Y gets cancelled, and in this case, we get P infinite into Y minus 1 by, this Y comes to the denominator, this Y gets cancelled, this Y comes to the denominator, Y into P infinite minus Pt. This is the rate constant of a first order reaction when Pt and P infinite are given. Now listen carefully. In case 2 of module 4 pressure change method, what we have discussed there, when Pt and P naught are given, we have derived this equation. You should have remembered that K1 equal to 2.303 by T log of P naught into Y minus 1 by P naught Y minus Pt. We have derived this equation. Now, if we check that when P naught is not given in case 3, they have given P infinite and Pt. In that condition, what is P infinite? According to the tabular column we have mentioned there, P infinite must be equal to Y P naught, which implies P naught equal to P infinite by Y. Substitute that P infinite by Y in this equation, and what is the equation we will get? When P infinite and Pt are given, how to calculate the rate constant of a first order reaction here? K1 is equal to 2.303 by T log of P infinite into Y minus 1 by Y into P infinite minus Pt. This is the rate constant of first order reaction when P infinite and Pt are given. Now next. Now we have checked the pressure change method. When pressures are given for a reactant terms or products terms, how to do the calculations. Now we'll go for volumetric analysis method. If by volumetric analysis method, how to do the calculation? Let us check that. Volumetric analysis method. In this volumetric analysis method, we'll see for two equations, for example, when the information were given, how to calculate the rate constant of a first order reaction. In this method, we'll check first decomposition of hydrogen peroxide, H2O2. This is what we are going to check. Already in volume change method, basing on that information given, you can calculate using that rate constant. Or else, if the information were given by volumetric analysis method, you can use this information to do the calculation. H2O2 gives rise to H2O plus half O2 is the equation. Now, what is our conditions required here? What is initial concentration of H2O2? Let us assume it as A, 0, 0. Concentration of H2O2 at an instant T. At an instant T is taken as some X amount has reacted. What is remaining amount? A minus X by 2. Now, concentration of H2O2 at infinite time. If we assume at infinite time, this could be written as A minus A by 2 according to the reaction ratio. Now, listen carefully here. In this case, now if hydrogen peroxide is titrated with hypo, hypo is Na2S2O3, sodium thiosulfate. If it is titrated with sodium thiosulfate or hypo, only H2O2 reacts with it. What is the volume of hypo initially consumed will be mentioned in the question. What is the volume of hypo initially consumed will be equivalent to A of H2O2. Why it is equivalent to A of H2O2? Because it is going to react only with H2O2. So initial amount of H2O2, how much it is present, basing on that volume of hypo will be consumed. So initial volume of hypo measured in titration of hypo with H2O2 is equivalent to A. Suppose if they are given volume of hypo consumed at an instant T must be equivalent to A minus X. Once again, it reacts only with H2O2. It doesn't react with H2O and O2. So that is not concerned with those things. So which implies, now what will be the volume of hypo initially consumed? Volume of hypo initially consumed, V0 must be equivalent to A. Similarly, volume of hypo consumed at an instant T, consumed at an instant T must be equal to, at an instant T must be equal to Vt. This is equivalent to A minus X, because what is volume of concentration of H2O2 present at an instant T is A minus X. So which do implies that volume of hypo consumed at an instant T, Vt is equivalent to A minus X. So what is Vt is equivalent to A minus X? What is V0 is equivalent to A? This will be the information given in this total problem to you. All these things is an explanation part how to solve the problem when those information were given. So what will be given in the question? Actually, volume of hypo initially consumed when it is titrated with hydrogen peroxide is V0, and volume of hypo consumed at an instant T, Vt is given to you. Nothing else will be given. You should analyze that V0 is equivalent to A and Vt is equivalent to A minus X, and you have to take the condition of rate constant K1 equal to 2.303 by T log of, instead of A by A minus X, we can write directly V0 by Vt. It all depends on the informations given in the question. So, here what is rate constant? V naught will be given to you in the question and Vt will be given to you in the question. You have to calculate it as K1 equal to 2.303 by T log of V naught by Vt. I hope so. This condition is very clear. In the volumetric analysis method, when one of the reactant volume or concentration something is given, you can find out the concentration of other substance. That is the purpose of titration, where the end point or the completion of the reaction could be found. So volume of hypo initially consumed is equivalent to A. Volume of hypo consumed at an instant T is equivalent to A minus X. Therefore, rate constant K1 must be equal to 2.303 by T log of, instead of A by A minus X, we should put V naught by Vt. Now, let us check the other example for volumetric analysis method is itself. Now, another first order reaction we will take. Acidic ester hydrolysis. Acidic ester hydrolysis. Now, on hydrolysis of an ester, it produces an acid and alcohol, which is a common reaction in organic chemistry. Let us take some ester, CH3, COO, C2H5. On hydrolysis, in the presence of an acid H+, in the presence of an acid H+. Now, this gives rise to an acid CH3COOH plus an alcohol C2H5OH. Now, let us take the initial conditions of ester, conditions at an instant T, conditions at infinite time, and thereafter we will check with which it would be titrated, or what is the information that could be given in the question. Initial concentration of CH3COO C2H5, consider it as A. H2O anyway it would be in excess. That is the reason it is a first order reaction. Only the change in concentration of CH3COO C2H5 will influence the rate of reaction. But change in concentration of H2O will not much influence the rate of reaction because it is already in excess. H2O is already in excess. Such kind of reactions in which two reactant molecules are participating in the reaction, but only change in concentration of one reactant molecule influences the rate of reaction is called pseudo first order reaction. Acidic ester hydrolysis is also a pseudo first order reaction. The reactions in which more than one reactant molecule is present, but only the change in concentration of one reactant molecule only influences the rate of reaction is termed as pseudo first order reaction. So this is a pseudo first order reaction. So where the change in concentration of H2O does not influence the rate of reaction. So we are not going to put about the concentration of H2O here. So initially this amount is 0 and this amount is 0. Now concentration of ester at an instant T, of ester at an instant T. Some X amount has been reacted, means this amount would be A minus X, this amount would be X, and this amount also would be X. We know H plus is a catalyst. What is the purpose of catalyst? It will alter the speed of reaction, but at the end of the reaction, its chemical composition remains same. Then only it is called catalyst. It is a substance which alters the rate of reaction, but its chemical composition does not change, is called as catalyst. Here catalyst is an acid. Here catalyst is an acid. Remember that its chemical composition does not change initially or at an instant T or at infinite time. concentration of H plus would not vary. It increases the speed of this reaction. Concentration of ester at an instant or at infinite time. At infinite time. So here almost the reaction is completed. This would be A minus A, this amount would be A, this amount would be A. So remember, what is the concentration of H plus will not vary at different conditions because it is a catalyst. Remember that concentration of CH3COH at an instant T is X and alcohol is also X. Concentration of CH3COH at infinite time is A and concentration of alcohol at infinite time is also A. So remember this tabular column very clearly and what is its concentrations at different conditions. Now let us check. When it is titrated with a base, base generally reacts with acid. Base generally reacts with only acid. Initially, what is the only acid present is a catalyst. At an instant T, what is the acid present? Now clearly understand the concept. Initially, what is the acid? NaOH is a base. It reacts only with a acid. When it reacts only with acid, what is the initial acid present is only a catalyst H plus. Whereas at an instant T, what is the acid present? Catalyst is present as well as CH3COOH, acetic acid is also present. So NaOH initially reacts only with catalytic acid. At an instant T, it reacts with catalytic acid as well as X amount of acetic acid. At an instant T, what is the amount of acetic acid present? X. So it reacts with an X amount of acetic acid. Thereafter, at infinite time, same amount or same concentration of catalyst is present and it reacts with A amount of, what is the amount of acetic acid at infinite time? A amount. As there is A amount of acetic acid present, it reacts with A amount of acetic acid at infinite time. So basing on that, we will write the conditions here. So this is titrated with NaOH, which is a base. Base generally reacts with an acid. When it is titrated with NaOH and the information were given basing on that. When it is titrated with NaOH and information is given. What is the information given here is volume of NaOH initially consumed by reacting with an acid. Initially consumed by reacting with an acid is equal to V0. Suppose this was given. Now what is V0 here is equivalent to concentration of H plus, because initially the only acid, as I said, was present is H plus. So V0 is equivalent to concentration of H plus. Now the second information given to us is volume of NaOH consumed at an instant T. Consumed at an instant T was the information given to us. At an instant T is given as Vt. They gave some volume. This is equivalent to, at an instant T, what all the acids were present? Same amount of H plus and X amount of CH3COOH. So this is equal to concentration of H plus X. X is the amount of CH3COOH present at that instant. Now, which implies what is X must be equal to Vt minus, what is concentration of H plus? V0. So, what is X in this problem is equal to Vt minus V0, because Vt equal to concentration of H plus X. But concentration of H plus is equal to V0. So Vt minus V0 is equal to X, indicates the reactor amount, because they gave only V0 and Vt. They didn't give us concentration of H plus, they didn't give us X, they didn't give us A. Nothing information was given to us. The information given is volume of NaOH initially consumed when it is treated with acidic ester hydrolytic solutions. Volume of NaOH consumed at an instant T. Similarly, when it is treated with this ester hydrolysis solution. Now next information given is volume of NaOH consumed at infinite time. Consumed at infinite time. This is equal to V infinite was given to us. This must be equal to, of course it also reacts, same amount of H plus is present initially at an instant T, at the end of the reaction when the reaction is completed also, because it is a catalyst. Chemical composition of catalyst is not very, it just alters the rate of reaction. Plus, what is the concentration of CH3COOH at infinite time is equal to A. So, concentration of H plus A. So, here which implies H plus is equal to V naught, already we know that, which implies A must be equal to V infinite minus V naught, because H plus must be equal to V naught. So, A is equal to V infinite minus V naught. Now, what we want, A minus X, then only we can determine the K1. A minus X must be equal to, what is A? V infinite minus V naught minus, what is X? Vt minus, what is there? V naught. Vt minus V naught. So, if you remove the brackets, what will get? Minus V naught plus V naught gets cancelled. A minus X becomes V infinite minus Vt. V infinite minus Vt. Now, listen carefully. What is A? V infinite minus V naught. What is A minus X equal to? V infinite minus Vt. A minus X must be equal to V infinite minus Vt. What is our rate constant equation? K1 equal to 2.303 by T log of A by A minus X. K1 must be equal to 2.303 by T log of A by A minus X. So, which implies in this kind of problems, K1 must be equal to 2.303 by T log of, what should be taken instead of A? V infinite minus V naught. V infinite minus V naught divided by, what should be taken as A minus X? V infinite minus Vt. In the problem anyway we said already, they have given the information V naught, V infinite and Vt. So this is the problem or formula when V naught, V infinite and Vt were given in acidic ester hydrolysis with NaOH is mentioned. So remember here, this total problem, in this total problem, what is percentage of reacted amount? Always we said percentage of reacted amount must be equal to X by A into 100. That must be equal to, what is X here? Already what we have derived as X, Vt minus V naught. Vt minus V naught by, what is A here? V infinite minus V naught. V infinite minus V naught into 100 is the percentage of reacted amount, because always percentage of reacted amount is X by A into 100. So here X must be equal to Vt minus V naught and A must be equal to V infinite minus V naught. So percentage of reacted amount is equal to X by A into 100. That is equal to Vt minus V naught by V infinite minus V naught. Now percentage of remaining amount, what is the formula we have? We have to use, I said already, percentage of remaining amount must be equal to A minus X by A into 100. What is A minus X? Now we have derived V infinite minus Vt by, what is A? We have derived V infinite minus V naught into 100. Remember how to find out for every problem percentage of reacted amount and percentage of remaining amount, because anything could be asked in the exams. So this is, we have seen two important examples which generally they ask in the competitive exams by volumetric analysis method. In this method, decomposition of H2O2 we have discussed, acetic ester hydrolysis. These were the common problems that would be asked in the exams. Now let us discuss about optical rotation method. What is meant by optical rotation? If you have understood that only, we can say that method. Optical rotation in the sense, plane polarized light. When light is passed through few crystals, its vibrations are getting localized into a single plane. Such light is called plane polarized light, about which in detail we will learn in organic chemistry. But now understand, when plane polarized light is passed through few organic solutions, its vibrations are getting either rotated to the right, which is called dextrorotatory, or vibrations are getting rotated to the left. Suppose this is, if we consider vibrations of light. This is vibrations of light in a plane polarized light restricted to a single plane. Now suppose if few organic solutions can rotate it to the vibrations to the right. If it rotates the vibrations to the right, then it is called dextrorotatory. This is termed as dextrorotatory. Dextrorotatory. It is a condition to be checked. So if the vibrations are rotated to the right. Now suppose few organic solutions can rotate it to the left like this. If vibrations of light, if it is rotated to the left, then it is called levorotatory. This is called levorotatory. This is, you can observe here that if vibrations, this is plane polarized light, few organic solutions will rotate the vibrations of light to the right side, then it is called dextrorotatory. If it rotates the vibrations to the left side, it is called levorotatory. Here we can observe that in optical rotation method, particularly if we use inversion of cane sugar. Inversion of cane sugar. In optical rotation method, if we check inversion of cane sugar. Optical rotation method. Optical rotation method. We are going to check inversion of cane sugar. So here, what is cane sugar formula? First of all, inversion of cane sugar. Let us see what is the formula of inversion of cane sugar. C12 H22 O11 plus H2O gives rise to C6H12O6, which is called as glucose. Glucose and fructose are with the same formula, but they are functional isomers. This is an aldehyde, that is a ketone. This is sucrose, which is considered as a cane sugar. When we hydrolyze this, it gets converted into glucose and fructose. This is dextrorotatory by plus 66.5. This is dextrorotatory by plus 52.5. This is levorotatory by minus 92 degrees. So as the reaction proceeds, you can observe that dextro will be converted into levo. dextro would be converted into liu. So which implies that it has got inverted dextro to liu. Therefore, it is called inversion of cane sugar. This is only plus 66.5, but this is plus 52.5, but that is minus 92 degrees. So which implies as the reaction proceeds, dextro D form is getting converted into L form. That is called inversion. Therefore, this is called the inversion of cane sugar. And of course, here also, as we said in acetic ester hydrolysis, H2O is in excess and its change in concentration does not influence the rate of reaction. Therefore, it is also a pseudo first order reaction. It is also a pseudo first order reaction. Pseudo first order reaction. False first order reaction. There are two reactant molecules, but only change in concentration of sucrose influences the rate of reaction. So which implies that it is considered as a pseudo first order reaction. As we have taken before, let us take the conditions. Its initial concentration of sucrose, so it is considered as A0, 0. Now, its concentration of sucrose at an instant T. Concentration at an instant T. Let us consider it as A minus X. Here also X, X. Concentration at infinite time. Concentration at infinite time. This, let us take it as A minus A as usual. However, we write, we are going to take in the same way that X amount has got reacted, remaining is A minus X, A amount at the end of the reaction. At infinite time, the total reaction is almost completed. That is, total A amount would have reacted and it leads to the formation of A amount of acid, that is glucose and fructose in this case. Now, I hope so these conditions were clear to us. So, inversion of cane sugar, what is initial concentration? Concentration at an instant T, concentration at infinite time. So, inversion of cane sugar is a pseudo first order reaction. Why it is called inversion of cane sugar? Because the form in the reaction is getting converted into L form. Now here, let us see the conditions of by optical rotation, what they have given. They have given initial optical rotation. Initial optical rotation was given to us as R0. Optical rotation at an instant T. Optical rotation at an instant T. Rotation at an instant T is given as RT. Optical rotation at infinite time. Optical rotation at infinite time. This was given to us as R infinite. R not RT, R infinite was mentioned to us or given in the question to us. Now we need to find out K. That is our purpose, right? So here, whatever is the change in optical rotation is equivalent to the reacted amount. Generally, in these conditions, change in optical rotation. Change in optical rotation is equivalent to amount of sucrose reacted. So because of reaction only, there is a change in optical rotation. Change in optical rotation is equivalent to amount of sucrose reacted. Let us take at an instant T. At an instant T. So at an instant T, when you observe here that amount of sucrose reacted is X. X is equivalent to what is change in optical rotation at an instant T? R0 minus RT. Remember that at an instant T, the reacted amount of sucrose is X. We know that. So this must be equal to change in optical rotation at an instant T. What is change in optical rotation at an instant T? R0 minus RT. Now at infinite time, what is the reacted amount of sucrose at infinite time? The total sucrose has reacted, that is A has reacted. What is change in optical rotation at infinite time? Initial rotation minus optical rotation at infinite time, that is R naught minus R infinite. So what is A is equivalent to R naught minus R infinite. So remember, initial optical rotation R naught is given to us, optical rotation at an instant t is given to us, optical rotation at infinite time is given to us as R naught, RT and R infinite. What is condition? Change in optical rotation is equivalent to amount of sucrose reacted. At an instant t, what is the amount of sucrose reacted? X. So X is equivalent to R naught minus RT. At infinite time, what is the amount of sucrose reacted? Total amount of sucrose has reacted, because the reaction at infinite time is almost completed, which implies A must be equivalent to R naught minus R infinite. R naught minus R infinite. Now, in this case, what would be K1 to be find out? We should know A minus X must be equal to, what is A here? R naught minus R infinite. What is X here? R naught minus RT. So R naught minus R infinite minus R naught minus RT. This is A, this represents X. So this must be equal to, R naught gets cancelled. We get it as RT minus, minus of minus becomes plus, RT minus R infinite. So what is K1 here must be equal to 2.303 by T log of, what is A here? R naught minus R infinite. R naught minus R infinite. What is A minus X here? RT minus R infinite. This is the representation of rate constant when the initial optical rotation at an instant t and optical rotation at infinite time is given to us in inversion of cane sugar. So here, if they asked percentage reacted must be equal to X by A into 100. What is X? R naught minus RT. What is A? R naught minus R infinite. So what is X by A? R naught minus RT divided by R naught minus R infinite into 100. Percentage of remaining amount of sucrose must be equal to A minus X by A. What is A minus X? A minus X is equal to RT minus R infinite. A minus X must be equal to RT minus R infinite. A minus X by A. RT minus R infinite by R infinite minus R naught minus R infinite into 100. You can put here A minus X by A. So RT minus R infinite by R naught minus R infinite into 100. So here it implies that in this kind of optical rotation method, you can observe that what is change in optical rotation will be equivalent to amount of the sucrose reacted. Basing on that condition, we will get the rate constant of a first order reaction, because inversion of cane sugar is also a pseudo first order reaction. Why it is pseudo first order? In the reaction, there are two reactant molecules, but only change in concentration of one reactant molecule influences the rate of reaction. Hence, it is considered to be pseudo first order reaction. Let us take radioactive disintegration method. Radioactive disintegration method. In this method, all radioactive disintegrations are first order reactions directly. So in the radioactive disintegration method, generally notation will be changed. They generally take K1 instead of K1 as lambda. Instead of K1 as lambda. Instead of initial concentration, they use the notation N0, which is equal to initial number of radioactive elements. This is initial number of radioactive elements present. So they generally use, instead of A, initial number of radioactive elements present, that is as N0. So here A is equivalent to N0. What is A minus X? Normally remaining amount. Instead of A minus X, they use a notation called N. N is number of radioactive elements remaining at that instant. Remaining at that instant is considered as A. So here, from the notation changed, what we will write generally first order. All radioactive disintegrations are always first order reactions. So here instead of K1, we use radioactive disintegration constant lambda. Instead of A, initial concentration, we use initial number of radioactive elements. Similarly, instead of remaining amount, we use number of radioactive elements remaining at that instant t. So remember, what should be the rate equation of this? Lambda must be equal to 2.303 by t log of N0 by N instead of K1 equal to 2.303 by t log of A by A minus X. So instead of that, we use lambda must be equal to 2.303 by t log of N0 by N. We know what is N0 here, what is N here, and what is lambda here. So which implies here in this condition, lambda must be equal to 2.303 by t log of, this is rate equation of radioactive disintegrations. This is rate equation of radioactive disintegrations. Now what is exponential form of the equation? Generally we do write A minus X equal to A e power minus K1t. So in this case we will write it as N equal to N0. Instead of A minus X, what we represent? N. Instead of A, what we represent? N0. E power minus, instead of K1, what we represent? Lambda. So what is exponential form of radioactive disintegration? N is equal to E power minus lambda t. Now say once again, what is exponential form of radioactive disintegration? Capital N is equal to N0 E power minus lambda t. Now from that, what is fraction of remaining amount? N by N0. This is fraction of remaining amount. This is fraction of remaining amount. So what is fraction of remaining amount? N by N0 must be equal to E power minus lambda t. N by N0 must be equal to E power minus lambda t. So fraction of remaining amount is equal to E power minus lambda t. Now what is fraction of reacted amount? When they have asked fraction of reacted amount, if the question is asked as fraction of reacted amount, what would be the fraction of reacted amount? Actually, if you take A minus X by A, this can be written as 1 minus X by A. This can be written as 1 minus N by N0. That must be equal to 1 minus E power minus lambda t. This is also very important condition in radioactive disintegration. What is fraction of reacted amount? Is actually X by A. Fraction of remaining amount here, right? A minus X by A. Fraction of remaining amount must be equal to, instead of A minus X, we represent the number of radioactive elements remaining, N, and initial amount instead of the initial number of radioactive elements. Is it not? That's what we have checked in from the beginning. So A minus X by A must be equal to N by N naught equal to e power minus lambda t. So directly if the question is asked what is the fraction of remaining radioactive elements, we can write e power minus lambda t. Many times this was asked in the exam also. What is fraction of reacted amount? They'll ask sometimes. It is 1, that is A minus X by A. Remaining amount is A minus X by A. So this is actually X by A. What is fraction of reacted amount is X by A. So X by A could be written as, generally we will check this, X by A could be written as, so here reacted amount is X, right? This can be written as A minus X by A, can be written as 1 minus X by A, which implies this is equal to 1 minus, now this is e power minus lambda t, now which implies X by A must be equal to 1 minus e power minus lambda t. So here X by A must be directly equal to 1 minus e power minus lambda t. So we can say that A minus X by A is e power minus lambda t, as we have seen. Then that fraction of reacted amount is originally X by A. So X by A must be equal to 1 minus e power minus lambda t, right? So fraction of remaining amount is e power minus lambda t. Fraction of reacted amount is 1 minus e power minus lambda t. So X by A we have to take in this way, from A minus X by A we have to derive it. Fraction of reacted amount is 1 minus e power minus lambda t. Now next, now let us check half-lives basing on number of half-lives. We know already what is meant by half-life time. Half-life time means time taken for half of the reaction to be completed. What is remaining number of radioactive elements? From this we will check that. Number of half-lives. In first T half, what is the remaining amount? N naught by 2. In second T half, what is the remaining amount? In this half would be remaining, because for second T half this is initial amount. This is N naught by 4, that is equal to half of this. N naught by 2 square. This could be written as N naught by 2 power 1. In third T half, what is the remaining amount? In this half, that is N naught by 8, that is equal to N naught by 2 power 4. Similarly, if we take in nth T half time, what would be the remaining amount? N naught by 2 power n in the similar way. So we can say that, which implies n must be equal to N naught by 2 power n. N must be equal to N naught by 2 power n. Here n must be equal to number of half-lives. What must be small n is equal to number of half-lives. How to calculate small n? This is equal to in given time how many half-lives were there. In given time the number of half-lives present. So listen carefully. In first T half means time taken for the half of the reaction to be completed, right? What is remaining number of, n indicates remaining number of radioactive elements. What is remaining number? N naught by 2. In second T half, what is the remaining amount here? In this half, N naught by 4. That must be equal to N naught 2 square. In third T half, what is the remaining amount? In this half, N naught by 8. That is equal to N naught by 2 power 4. In nth T half, what would be the remaining amount? N naught by 2 power n. So what we can write here, n is equal to N naught by 2 power n, where small n is number of half-lives, that is equal to, in the total given time, how many half-lives were present, that would be indicated by small n. So here, listen carefully, we can ask the question as, what is fraction of remaining number of radioactive elements. The questions can be asked in this way. Fraction of remaining number of radioactive elements. Remaining number of radioactive elements. Fraction of remaining number of radioactive elements. Original equal to n by n naught. This must be equal to, what is n by n naught equal to? 1 by 2 power n. Now if they have asked the question, fraction of reacted number of radioactive elements. Reacted number of radioactive elements. What is reacted number of radioactive elements in this case? This must be equal to n naught minus n by n naught. That is equal to 1 minus n by n naught. That is equal to 1 minus 1 by 2 power n. So remember these two cases. Fraction of remaining number of radioactive elements equal to n by n naught. That is equal to 1 by 2 power n. Fraction of reacted number of radioactive elements is equal to 1 minus n by n naught. That must be equal to 1 minus 1 by 2 power n. What is small n here? Number of half-lives. How to find out? In given time. In given time. Whatever is the number of half-life here. So small m equal to, we can see here, t by t half. We can write it as small n is equal to t by t half. So here, now, normally for your radioactive disintegration calculations, dx by dt is proportional to number of radioactive elements present at that instant, or dx by dt must be equal to lambda into number of radioactive elements present at that instant. This can be called as activity equal to lambda n. Activity must be equal to lambda n. So if they ask the question in terms of calculate the activity of a radioactive element, it's nothing but rate of disintegration is asked. So which can be concluded as activity must be equal to lambda n. So basing on this, the problems can be related to that. So for a radioactive disintegration, now in this last two modules, we have checked what were different conditions of methods to calculate the rate constant of a first order reaction. In chemical kinetics, always remember that calculations related to first order reactions are very important. Now all this module 5 up to that, you be very clear with that, with the formulae, how to do the calculations. In the 7th module, we are going to discuss about the problems related up to module 6. Up to module 6 problems will be discussed in module 7. So up to module 6, all the formula, if you are thorough only, you can check. The module 7 problems will be clear for you. So in the module 7, only the problems has to be discussed.